Well now, isn't it a fascinating thing to observe how people change, or perhaps how they are revealed, when a measure of power comes into their hands? Power. It's a word that carries so much weight, so much potential, so much inherent drama. We've talked about its nature, its forms, its distinction from authority. But today, I want us to turn our gaze to something even more critical, something that speaks to the very heart of how power impacts our world for good or for ill. We're going to explore the ethics of power, responsibility, and corruption. You see, power itself, like a strong current in a river, isn't inherently good or bad. It just is. It's an amplifier. It tends to magnify what's already there within the character of the individual who wields it. If there's kindness, power can amplify that kindness into broad acts of benevolence. If there's greed, power can amplify that greed into widespread exploitation. And that, my friends, is why a discussion about the ethics of power is not just an academic exercise. It's a profoundly practical one for anyone who has even a little influence over others. And that includes just about all of us in one way or another. It's often said, and with good reason, with great power comes great responsibility. Let's Ron-ize that a bit. Power doesn't just hand you a scepter, it hands you a weighty set of obligations. It's not a prize to be flaunted, but a trust to be stewarded. And this is where the ethical journey begins. The moment power is acquired, two paths immediately diverge: the path of responsibility and the path of potential corruption. The question that history, and indeed our daily lives, asks of those with power is, which path will you choose? Why do some who attain influence seem to grow in stature, in wisdom, in their service to others, while others, well, they seem to shrink, to become caricatures of their worst selves? Let's first consider the weight of responsibility, what I like to call the steward's burden. When you are given power, whether it's over a nation, a company, a team, or even just the resources for a small project, you are taking on a sacred duty. Your primary responsibility, it seems to me, is to those you serve. Power is rarely given for the sole benefit of the holder. It's typically entrusted for the well-being, the progress, or the protection of a group. Like a shepherd responsible for the flock, a leader's first thought should be for those under their care. Are their needs being met? Are they being treated fairly? Are they being given the opportunity to flourish? Then there's the responsibility for the resources controlled. Whether it's money, time, talent, or natural assets, these are not to be squandered or used for personal aggrandizement. They are tools to achieve the purpose for which the power was granted. Wise stewardship demands careful, prudent, and effective use of these resources. And what about the responsibility for the impact of your decisions? Every choice made from a position of power sends ripples, sometimes waves, out into the world. A responsible leader strives to foresee these consequences, to consider not just the immediate effect, but the long-term impact, to weigh the good of the many. Finally, there's the profound responsibility to uphold values and principles. Those with power are always on a stage. Their actions, their words, their very demeanor set the tone. They have a duty to lead by example, to embody the best principles of the group they lead. Power, you see, doesn't give you a free pass to do as you please. If anything, it gives you a heavier load to carry, a higher standard to meet. It demands more from you, not less. But then there's that other path, the one that whispers temptations and leads down a slippery slope to corruption. Lord Acton's famous words echo through history. Power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. Now, why is that? It's rarely a sudden plunge into darkness. No, corruption is usually a gradual erosion, a slow drift off course. It often begins with the seductive whisper of entitlement. "I've worked hard for this power," the thought goes. "I deserve a few extra perks, a few special privileges." And so the lines begin to blur. Then comes the danger of isolation. As one climbs higher, the air gets thinner, and it's easy to lose touch with the everyday realities of the people you lead. You might find yourself surrounded by those who tell you only what you want to hear, the yes men who shield you from uncomfortable truths. This echo chamber is a dangerous place for a leader. From there, it's a short step to arrogance and hubris. The person in power might begin to believe their own press, to think they are infallible, that the rules don't apply to them. Humility, that essential virtue, begins to wither. And, of course, there's the age-old temptation of greed. Power can open doors to personal enrichment, and the lure of more money, more possessions, more status can become an all-consuming fire. Sometimes this sad progression leads to paranoia and abuse. When a leader feels their power is threatened, especially if it's not rooted in genuine authority, they might resort to silencing dissent, punishing perceived enemies, and creating a climate of fear. It's like a small leak in a great dam. At first, it seems insignificant, hardly worth bothering about. But if left unattended, that little leak can grow, weakening the entire structure, until, one day, the whole thing gives way with catastrophic consequences. The road to ethical failure is often paved with tiny, almost unnoticeable missteps, small compromises made along the way. So, what is the defense against this corrosive potential of power? What is the anchor that can hold a leader steady when the storms of temptation blow? I believe with all my heart that it comes down to one fundamental thing: character, the indispensable role of the inner compass. You see, ethics isn't just a set of rules written in a book. It's about who you are when no one is looking. It's about the internalized principles that guide your choices. What are the qualities of character that serve as a bulwark against corruption? First and foremost, humility, remembering that you are, after all, human and fallible. Remembering where you came from, and that power is a trust, not a personal possession. Then there's integrity, that unwavering commitment to your principles, to honesty, to doing the right thing, even when it's hard, even when it's unpopular, even when it costs you something. Integrity is the bedrock. Empathy and compassion are also vital. The ability to stay connected to the humanity of others, to feel what they feel, to understand their needs and concerns. This keeps a leader grounded, and helps ensure that power is used to serve, not to harm. Don't forget self-discipline. The power over oneself is the foundation for all other powers. If you can control your own appetites, your own ego, your own desire for ease or excess, you are far less likely to be swayed by the corrupting influences of external power. And finally, courage. The moral courage to say no to temptation, to resist pressure to cut corners, to stand up for what is right even when you stand alone. Your character, my friends, is your most potent defense against the corrupting influence of power. It is the internal gyroscope that helps you maintain your balance. Now, while character is primary, we also need to think about building safeguards, both external and internal checks and balances. It's wise to have systems in place that support ethical behavior. Externally, things like transparency are crucial. When decisions are made in the open, when leaders are accountable for their actions, it's much harder for corruption to take root. Independent oversight, a free press that can ask tough questions, and the unwavering application of the rule of law, ensuring no one is above it. These are all vital external safeguards. Internally, for the individual wielding power, other disciplines are key. Engage in regular self-reflection. Ask yourself honestly, am I still on the right course? Are my motives pure? Am I living up to the responsibilities entrusted to me? Seek honest feedback from trusted advisors, especially those who aren't afraid to tell you what you need to hear, not just what you want to hear. Make a conscious effort to stay grounded, to maintain connections with ordinary people, to remember your original purpose for seeking or accepting power, and never stop your personal development. Keep learning, keep growing, keep refining your character. Ultimately, power provides the opportunity to create a legacy. Every leader, every person with influence leaves behind a story. What will your story be? Will you be remembered as someone who used their power to build up, to empower, to serve, to make things better? Or will you be remembered as someone who succumbed to the temptations, who used their power for selfish ends, who left a trail of broken trust or missed opportunities? Power is like a chisel in the hands of a sculptor. Ethics guides the hand. The block of marble is the opportunity before you. What image will you create? The choice is made not in one grand gesture, but in 1,000 small ethical decisions made day by day. So, the ethics of power, this ongoing dance between responsibility and the ever-present threat of corruption, is indeed one of life's greatest challenges. But it is also one of its highest callings. It is possible to wield power well. History shows us examples of men and women who used their influence to achieve great and noble things, who resisted the temptations, and who left the world better than they found it. It requires constant vigilance. It demands a strong and well-cultivated character. It calls for an unwavering commitment to service over self. In whatever sphere of influence you find yourself, from leading a family to leading a nation, I urge you to embrace the profound responsibilities that come with your power. Be ever watchful for those subtle whispers of corruption, and dedicate yourself to being the kind of leader, the kind of influencer who leaves a legacy of integrity and positive impact. That is a worthy ambition. That is the noble challenge of ethical power.